know that most of what you've seen, read, or heard about Billy the Kid is untrue? My name is Gail Cooper. I'm a medical doctor and forensic psychiatrist. My specialty is murder case consultation for the defense. For 20 years, I've used my expertise to uncover the real Billy the Kid. Researching over 40,000 pages of archival documents and books, I've written the revisionist history. It's shocking, it's liberating, and I've written books demolishing the hoaxes, hijacking the history. My talks will share with you what I've found. Cover-ups, misinformation, and fakery, to use Old West lingo, will bite the dust. This talk debunks W.C. Jameson's and Frederick Bean's photo comparison of Brushy Bill Roberts with the Billy the Kid tintype in their 1998 Brushy backing book, The Return of the Outlaw Billy the Kid. The information is from my book, Cracking the Billy the Kid Imposter Hoax of Brushy Bill Roberts. W.C. Jameson's and Frederick Bean's main addition to the original Brushy Bill imposter hoax was their 1990 so-called photo comparison study, using what they called computer technology to compare a photo of Brushy from alias Billy the Kid to the Billy the Kid tintype. They enthused that this approach was like the CIA, FBI, Interpol, and Scotland Yard. True believers, Jameson and Bean were backed by C.L. Sonneshan, the hoaxing English teacher, author of 1955's Alias Billy the Kid, and partner of by then deceased hoax mastermind William V. Morrison. On November 11th, 1990, Bean wrote to Sonneshan about using the photo comparison study to lure a potential publisher for their The Return of the Outlaw Billy the Kid. Bean wrote, "The tip you gave me about Tracy Rowe was a gem. He sounds very much like he wants to do the book. The data from the University of Texas Austin photo study interests him. I told him I was keeping you posted on the manuscript and photo study." The resulting, very silly study would ultimately yield Jameson's empty boast in a 2003 True West magazine article about Brushy as Billy that, quote, history needed to be rewritten. The study was done by a Dr. Scott T. Acton at the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering and the Laboratory for Vision Systems and Advanced Graphic Laboratory at the University of Texas. No expertise was claimed for him. Jameson and Bean had a starting gate problem. In 1989, a year before their Acton study, one was done by the Lincoln County Heritage Trust, the Lincoln, New Mexico Museum, which at that time housed the Billy the Kid tintype. That study's consultant was world-famous forensic anthropologist Clyde Snow and was paralleled by a Thomas G. Kyle of the Los Alamos National Laboratory. The tintype was compared to other alleged photographs of Billy the Kid, including Brushy Bill, with a control of 100 photographs of random men. The Heritage Trust study was reported in the Dallas Morning News on April 22, 1990, by a Michael Haderly as Experts in photographic studies unable to picture Heiko Man as Billy the Kid. Sanderson had it in his collected papers. Excerpted, it stated, "For 40 years, a few dedicated amateur historians have argued that the legendary Billy the Kid really didn't die at the hands of Pat Garrett in 1881 in Fort Sumner, New Mexico. Instead, they said the kid lived out his life under another name, Ollie L. Brushy Bill Roberts. It would be a great story, if true. It's not, according to new studies. Forensic experts basing their finding on the first results of a pair of sophisticated computer studies have concluded that there isn't a very good chance Brushy Bill was Billy the Kid," said Bob Hart, director of the Lincoln County Heritage Trust. The Heritage Trust commissioned the studies in 1988, seeking to authenticate nearly 30 photographs said to be of Billy the Kid, as well as to separate fact from fiction. The Brushy Bill claim, which has been outlined in several books, has been especially persistent, Mr. Hart said. The scientific evidence, in his opinion, should lay those claims to rest. The Trust commissioned computer studies of old photographs of Brushy Bill and the Kid found few facial similarities between the two men. In fact, one study showed that 40 convicted felons chosen at random from the Chicago Police Department files looked more like Billy the Kid than did Brushy Bill. Clyde Snow, a Norman, Oklahoma forensic anthropologist who has been a consultant to the studies, concluded that there was virtually no chance Brushy Bill could have been the Kid, Mr. Hart said. Meanwhile, Thomas Kyle, a photo enhancement specialist at the Los Alamos National Laboratory, conducted his study of the Brushy Bill and Billy the Kid photos and came to a similar conclusion. Thomas G. Kyle himself published Computers, Billy the Kid, and Brushy Bill, The Verdict is in July 1990's True West magazine. Excerpted, he wrote, "The Lincoln County Heritage Trust of Lincoln, New Mexico is using the only known photograph of Billy the Kid to determine the authenticity of a stack of other pictures said to be of Billy. Computers are playing a role in resolving decades-old debates. I was asked to help in the computer studies. Comparisons of the tintype photo with one of Brushy Bill Roberts, who claimed to be Billy the Kid, have demonstrated that Roberts and the Kid were two different people." Kyle gave examples of the differences. Lines between the pupils of Billy's and Brushy's eyes demonstrate Brushy's eyes are almost level with the top of his ears. Billy's eyes are well above the top of his ears. The horizontal line that passes just under Brushy's nose passes well below Billy's nose. Two identical white boxes are drawn on Billy's and Brushy's chins. The top of the box is positioned at the horizontal dip in the chin. The box was sized to extend down to the bottom of Billy's chin. The same box comes far below Brushy's chin because Brushy's chin is smaller. That proves that the chins are different and that Brushy Bill Roberts and Billy the Kid were not the same person. The ears have even greater differences than the chins. With age, the lobes of the ear become larger, but the rest of the ear remains unchanged. Brushy's ears were somewhat triangular, while Billy's were round to square, a second proof that they were different people. Kyle joked that the differences were as great as someone with 3 eyes compared to someone with two. He wrote, "If one fellow had 3 eyes and the other 2, there would be little need to look for other disparities before deciding that they were different people." Jameson and Bean, of course, opposed this study. They accused Kyle of being in a so-called economic conspiracy to maintain the historical status quo. And they got mean, saying that the study had been, quote, more like a hobby for him. Finally, they declared that ears shouldn't have been used. For their Acton study, Jameson and Bean enthused about Dr. Scott Acton's, quote, state-of-the-art facilities and naively described his equipment. Thus revealed is that his system was from 1972 and 1976, it being 1990 when he did their study. A 92% success rate was claimed without saying for what. Acton was also bizarrely described as asking his school's psychology department for a method for scientific comparison of facial structure. Jameson and Bean quote Acton as concluding that, quote, the similarity between the facial structure of Roberts and the man in the tintype is indeed amazing. What is amazing is how Acton reached his conclusion. Acton's tomfoolery began with mouths. For Brushy, he used his death year picture from Alias Billy the Kid, even though Tintype Billy was about 20 and Alias Billy the Kid had young Brushy photos. The chosen, old Brushy, had a huge fishtail mustache covering his mouth. Repeat, covering his mouth. But Acton used that photo for his so-called mouth breadth measurements. He got a match, giving Brushy an 82 compared to Billy's 80. But he got the match by faking the mouths. He faked Billy's mouth with a so-called restoration of the tintype picture, meaning he retouched it, his days photoshopping. The tintype's deterioration had left black splotches on the corners of Billy's mouth, so Acton used them to elongate Billy's small mouth to match his made-up Brushy mouth. He got his Brushy mouth by retouching the shadow of his big fishtail mustache to create a long, straight mouth, since there wasn't any mouth in the actual photo. These are the bogus mouths yielding Acton's so-called amazing 80 to 82 match. Wisely, Acton stuck to the Jameson-Bean law and omitted Brushy's ears since they didn't match Billy's. Nevertheless, in his doctored picture of Billy, Acton added his missing left ear along with added rolled rims on both ears to emulate Brushy's. This leaves one with an opinion of Dr. Scott Acton like Jameson's and Bean's opinion of Thomas Kyle. They, however, conclude that Acton proved, quote, a very close match between Brushy and Billy. Frederick Bean got Scott Acton's report dated August 30th, 1990. He sent its copy to Sonneshin, and it's in his collected papers. It reveals Acton's fakery and intent to contradict the Lincoln County Heritage Trust study. Excerpted, Acton wrote to Bean, in your letter, you address 2 problems, the buck teeth and the round ears. The young Roberts is definitely closing his mouth tightly, and the old Roberts is definitely toothless. The ears
remain a mystery. The poor quality and dubious history of the Lincoln County Heritage Trust tintype, was it doctored?
Note that there is no dubious history, nor is it doctored.
Make me doubt the ear differences as absolute proof that O.L.,
meaning Aliel,
was not Billy the Kid. We will concentrate on facial features. Questions. How can we account for the dental problems of Billy the Kid present in both the Lincoln County Heritage Trust photo and the newspaper description?
Apparently, Acton is referring to the December 27th, 1880 Las Vegas Daily Gazette article by Lucius Lute Wilcox after Billy's capture, titled The Kid, Interview with Billy Bonney, the best-known man in New Mexico. It stated, Billy's only imperfection being two prominent front teeth, slightly protruding like a squirrel's teeth.
Conclusions. The similarity between the facial structure of O.L. Roberts and the man in the Lincoln County Heritage Trust tintype is indeed amazing. The main sources of error are the bizygomatic breadth,
meaning width across the cheekbones,
and the mid-lip to lower chin distance.
Note that Acton is hiding the wildly non-matching jaw length as a so-called error source when it actually eliminated Brushy as a match. The Lincoln County Heritage Trust study showed that overlaying Billy's long chin on Brushy's short chin put Billy's chin bottom down to Brushy's Adam's apple. Acton continued,
The ocular,
meaning eye,
distances, the mid-lip to nose distance, and the nose length are almost exactly the same for the Roberts and the Lincoln County Heritage Trust tintype.
Note that Acton hid that study's eye level in relation to ears, which proved no match, and he used the old Brushy photo with mustache hidden mouth for his faked mid-lip to chin distance, mid-lip to nose distance, and mouth breadth. Acton then announced ignoring ears, though they proved there was no match. The photos Acton used are shown. An unsubstantiated child claimed to be young Henry McCarty, old Roberts, with a mouth-hiding mustache, Lincoln County Heritage Trust image of Billy, meaning tintype, and young Roberts. Demonstrating his trickery is Acton's figure, captioned and described by him as
an attempted restoration of the Lincoln County Heritage Trust photo. I need to restore the photo in order to make valid comparisons of the images.
In fact, Acton reversed Billy's tintype head to match old Brushy's pose. He retouched Billy's ear and added a faked, missing one to match Brushy's. He top to bottom shortened Billy's head to reduce his big jaw. He elongated Billy's mouth, and he added big white buck teeth over the tintype's smaller crooked ones. That fakery concluded Jameson and Bean's so-called photo comparison match, and it's likely they thought it was true. Though the absurdity of Scott Acton's photo comparison is obvious, it foreshadowed future use of a complicit claimed expert to back the Brushy hoax. In 13 years, scientific-sounding gobbledygook would get center stage in the Billy the Kid case mega hoax. For that go-around, Used would be a forensic expert for Billy the Kid DNA matching, though no valid DNA of Billy Bonney exists on the planet. The next talk exposes W.C. Jameson's and Frederick Bean's conspiracy theories, trying to rationalize why Brushy continued to be rejected as Billy the Kid.